welcome everybody. You having a good time? Yeah. Good. Thank you. Hi, buddy.
Hi.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I was thinking about you coming here. So Microsoft and Pivotal, we've been doing a lot of fun things together of late, and I'm reminded of a InfoQ prank from years ago. Did you see this? I'm always reminded of this. This is a very funny thing. Back in 2008, SpringSource, the company that birthed Spring and then was then purchased by VMware, which then became part of a spin-out called Pivotal, did an April Fool's joke. This is a joke. It's not real.
Yeah.
Right?
And I was working at SpringSource at that time.
Yeah.
So
how convenient.
yes, so that's fine.
So here's 2008.
I would never have thought it would become
We're such a
real for me.
such a wonderful partnership now. Yes. So anyway, I was thinking about that from years ago. That's 2008. That's 11 years ago, and here we are. We're going to talk about. So who saw the keynote on day one? Okay, good stuff. We don't have a lot of time, so here's what you need. You need to know that we're going to talk about Azure Spring Cloud. You're going to want to follow this Git repository, and you're going to want to follow those people on Twitter. So take a photo of that one slide. That's the best slide you're going to see all hour. Or no, sorry, all half hour, guaranteed. In this room, these are the best. This is the best, okay? I'll wait for the cameras to go down. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so what is Azure Spring Cloud? Can you give us a basic overview?
So it's a PaaS, it's a managed service for Spring applications that runs on Azure. And we've got several services which are running out of the box, managed, secured, clustered, and supported by both of us, both of our companies.
Yeah, not me personally. Don't worry. If you're scared, it's literally not me, Josh Long, that's supporting that code. You can be assured that there are better people than I working on that code. So I've heard this stuff before. I've done this before. I have worked with Spring Cloud, and I feel like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to Spring Cloud. So I'm going to show you what I want to do, and maybe you can help me make it a little easier, okay? So I'm going to build an application. As always, we're going to build a very simple application by going to my second favorite place on the internet, after production, of course. So here we go, start.spring.io. How many of you have been to start.spring.io? Oh, good stuff. The rest of you are wrong. It's wrong. You did bad. You've done it bad. So we're going to build a new application using the latest and greatest Spring Boot. We're going to just call this the, I guess we can call it, the reservation service. Okay, so that screen projecting, good. Reservation service. And we're going to build an application here. And we have a couple of choices of packaging here. Obviously, a lot of choices of packaging. The first of which is which version, the first of which is which kind of packaging do you want to use. A lot of people get confused by this. Obviously, you should be using the correct one, which is jar, right? Don't choose .war. And then we have the choice of packaging, then we have the choice of the Java version that you want to use. And again, a lot of different discussions to be had here, a lot of different opinions that people have about this. But in my view, there's only one correct version that you should be using. And it's not 8. So remember, Java 11 is the current long-term supported version of Java. It's the one that is officially supported. It's the one that has a future. Java 8 is old, it's dead, it's expired, it's stinky, not fresh, deprecated, past its prime, gone. When you are making the decision to choose a version of Java, ask yourself, are you going to use Java 8? Do you really want to do that? Do you think that's the right thing to do? Are you willing to accept that responsibility when you're confronted by your children with what you've been doing at work today? Of course not. So use Java 11. You should be using Java 13, in fact, but at the very least, these are the long-term supported versions. These are the ones that have a future. So I'm going to use Java 11. Now, we're going to build an application using Lombok. We're going to bring in the reactive web support here. We're going to use reactive MongoDB, right? These are all things I want to use. I want to use Eureka for service registration and discovery to make my service visible so I can advertise it. I want to bring in the config client to make it so that I can centralize my configuration. And of course, I want to use Zipkin to support distributed tracing. These are things that microservice systems should be able to support. So I'm going to build a very simple application like that. You see anything wrong with that?
No.
No. Okay, good.
Oh, we
Did
are
not
both
think
wrong.
so. Sorry?
Oh, we are both wrong, but
Yeah. So there we go. Now, there's my application. I'm going to go ahead and delete all that. and hit generate again. Okay, so there's my new zip file. I'm going to open that up. And how could that work? Goodbye to this. And we've got goodbye to that. And, okay. So this is gone. Waiting for process to detach. Good. Goodbye to this. Oh, awkward. Okay, UAO. Generate.
That's why there are so many generations on start.spring.io.
Yep.
It's just you typing.
Just me making mistakes all day. Yeah.
15 million mistakes.
Right. So here we go. Brand new project. Going to load the application up, and we're just going to do the normal things that I like to do in these kinds of things. I like to build something that talks to the database. So as usual, I go into my application. I'm going to do, I've got pom.xml, and I'm going to make a new application, like so. I'll just start it up. I'm going to build an application that manages data in the database, and I've got MongoDB running in the background here. Let's make the font a little larger. Okay, so we're going to make the font a little bit larger for everybody to see, and we're going to build an application that manages entities of type reservation whose primary keys of type ID, named ID in a field called name, and we're going to signal that this is a ID column in the MongoDB collection by annotating it with @document, and by what I want now is I want getters and setters and 2 strings. I want all this kind of stuff here, right? I want all the stuff that you need to have a regular entity in Java. Look at all that Java. So Java. So modern. So Java. So there's a couple ways to get around this. One is to use any other language ever, which is an option. So Scala, Kotlin, Groovy, anything else, right? Or just use Lombok. Lombok's a compile time annotation processor. Here we go. Okay, there's my types, there's my annotations, good stuff. Now I have a thing I want to persist. I'm going to manage the tedious, soul-annihilatingly boring read, write, and update data management lifecycle by using a reactive Mongo repository, reactive CRUD repository, managing entities of type reservation whose key is of type string. And then from there I want to write some data to the database. So initializer, @event listener, application ready event. Okay, ready event.class public void ready. Okay, and we're just going to inject our repository here, private final reservation repository. Okay, and @component and @required args constructor. Okay, there's that. There's my basic entity, and I just want to write some data to the database. So I'll say flux.just, and I'll have some names. Your name is Julien.
Yes.
Good. Enchanté, mon ami. I'm Josh. So nice to meet you. I've got my buddy Asir in the front there. I've got Bruno somewhere out there in the world being awesome. And we need some other names, don't we? We need Kylie, of course. We got that. We need Teresa. Good. We need
Emily.
Emily. Is that Emily or Emily?
Emily.
Okay. And then who else can I add to the... Jürgen, is he here? Good stuff.
Oh, good. The father of Spring with us.
Yeah, good stuff. So there's that. I feel like I'm in much better company than I deserve to be in. So there's the names, and all I want to do is I want to write these names to the database. So I'm going to visit each one, names.map, name, and I'll say new reservation null, passing in that. And there's my publisher, and I want to save each one of those to the database. So I'm going to say flat map each one, and just write it to the database like that, okay? And that's a stream. In order for that to work, I need to turn it from a cold stream into a hot one. So I'm going to subscribe like so. And that's it. That'll actually write the data to the database when the application starts up. So that's good. I want to get that data now from an HTTP endpoint, right? So I'm going to build a functional reactive HTTP endpoint. So router function, like so, router function, server response, routes, return route. Okay, not a big deal. And just going to do .get/reservations. Okay, new handler function. And we're going to turn a server response .ok, and we're going to return the body, the reactive body, which we're going to get by calling the repository and just dereferencing the result. So rr.findAll, reservation.class. Good stuff. There we are. Now, that's the entire thing. Obviously, I want to have some centralized configuration. Like, there's things that I'm going to care about in my application, and I can do that by going to application.properties, and I can specify things like the port on which I want this to run. But suppose I wanted to change that later on. Suppose I wanted information like database credentials, right? Things like that I don't want laying around in my property files unencrypted, right? It makes sense to add a little bit of indirection so that that configuration is loaded dynamically, is resolved dynamically through the Spring Cloud config server. So rather than storing everything in this property file, I'll go back to start.spring.io and I'll build a config service, right? So config-service, use the latest and greatest because that's the correct thing to do, and I'll build a config server. So here we are. Good stuff, okay? I'm gonna hit generate. And in the meantime, while that's downloading, this should work, basically. So let's see what that looks like. All right. Config service is downloading. Here we go. And you can see, in order to make this work, there's a lot of work you have to do. There's that. And of course, server.port is going to be, 8888? And I need to point it to a Git repository. Now this can be public or private, but because I'm really lazy, I'm just going to use a public one, okay? And so I've actually got this URL, this property here, Spring Cloud config server Git URL. I'm going to point it to a Git repository that contains the configuration. Do we have that
yes,
bookmarked?
Yeah.
Here we are. Here's a Git repository.
So you should not make this public, of course.
No, you should not make this public. This is a terrible idea. Don't ever make it public. But
you don't have any other choice with the way you do it now.
Right. Well, you do. You can set up the configuration, but it takes longer than we have. So I'm going to use the public one. So there's that. I've cloned it here. CD, okay, pwd, pb copy. There it is, right? No problem. So now I've got the config server, and the config server is going to act like a broker. My service over here is failing to register with Eureka because we don't have a service registry, but we still have the service running, so let's see if that's working. There's our data, right? There's all the data that came from our reactive MongoDB and our REST endpoint. It failed to connect to all these other things that we wanted to connect to, so that's why you see the stack trace, but that didn't stop it from starting. Now I want to change, for example, the port. So rather than putting it in here, I'm going to rely on the fact that I have this config server and the config client dependency. The config server is up and running. I can go to port 8888, reservation-service default, and I can see that there are, for example, a property file specific for reservation-service and another property file that's general purpose available to everybody. I'm going to rely on the fact that this is for reservation-service.properties. I'm going to rely on that. I'm going to connect my application to that config server by going here. So Spring application name equals reservation-service, right? Okay, and I want it to talk to the config server here, Spring. Now, spring.cloud.config URI, HTTP, and it's going to, by default, it'll be localhost 8888, right? That's the default one. Seem okay? So now, if that works, I should be able to take advantage of this message here. It says, hello, SpringOne platform, okay? So if that works, I should just be able to say message and return a value. And the value I'll inject in the parameter here. Wrong one. Okay, $message, string message. Okay, there we go. It should work. Let's try that. Now this should start up on port. It should start up on either the environment variable called port or the literal string, the fallback value 8000. So localhost 8000 message. Awkward. Oh, there we go. Okay, what did we get? So, can't inject that.
Oh, is it message or application.message?
Oh, is it application.message? Application.message, Pablo. So we say application.message, restart, take some coffee. All right, there we go. Good, right? Not bad. Now, oh yeah, I want to make that service available for discovery so that somebody else can benefit from that message, right?
Yeah, so you need a Eureka server.
Right, I want to make it, I want to advertise its presence. This is easy, I got this. I'm going to go to start.spring.io and I'll build a Eureka service, right? And I'll say Eureka server and Lumbuk, even though I'm not going to write any code at all, just in case, okay? And we go back to the downloads directory, and Eureka-service. And you can guess what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go to my property file, I'm going to say server.port equals 8761. I'm going to tell it not to register itself, right? That's ridiculous. Why would it want to do that? And I'm going to just say @enable Eureka server. Okay, presto changeo, there's your Eureka service registry. Localhost 8761. There we go. Okay. Now I just need to connect my microservice, this thing here, to that service registry. I'll just restart since the jar is already there. You know, the application's already there. Okay. Okay. There we go.
Oh.
All right.
Congratulations.
We're done. We can go home now.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, that's what's.
So this is after years of being a very, very overpriced demo person.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm ready for production. I feel like I'm done. We can go. So what do you have to say?
Well, you know, we have something, you know, in France when you arrive at the office.
Yeah.
We give you a little croissant,
yeah,
little chocolatine.
Right.
But we don't say, oh, please build the Kubernetes cluster, because we need that to run everything.
That's very rude, I guess.
No, we don't do that.
So you're saying because that was my plan. I was just going to take this and throw it into a Kubernetes cluster.
You were going to install VMs, install Kubernetes.
Right.
And how would you secure that? You know,
Look, I haven't figured that out. I've got days. Okay? You saw how fast the code went together. I'm sure I'm sure getting to production is just as easy. So, you know, can you do better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I?
Sure. Yeah.
So we're just going to change a few things to migrate to Azure Spring Cloud. I'm going to connect to your account.
Okay. Is that in the pivotal profile? Yeah.
Yes. So you're paying for it.
Good. Okay.
So we've got another Spring Cloud cluster. It's empty. It should be.
Yeah.
Because we deleted everything. So
you can go to the Microsoft Azure portal there and just create a new Azure Spring Cloud cluster.
Yes.
Okay? We've done that.
We already done that because it takes like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And we only need 10.
It takes a few minutes to boot an entire cluster, which is still faster than it used to take to boot WebSphere on every restart. So just so we're on the same page. Okay, go on.
So the first thing I'm going to do is configure the config server. So that's what you just did. I'm going to connect to the Git repositories that you use.
Okay.
I'm going to use the
All
same
my
one
configuration.
as you, of course. I'm going to git clone it. So first thing you notice here is that I could have secured it. So by default, it's public.
Okay.
But I could have used a token, SSH.
Right.
So I could have a secured one. It's also clustered. It's also managed. For example, when you have new versions arriving,
right,
you don't do anything. It's Pivotal and Microsoft upgrading everything.
So okay, that's
so you don't do
bad.
anything. And I forgot to talk about Eureka.
Okay.
You know why you didn't talk about Eureka?
Why didn't you talk about Eureka?
I don't have to do anything. It's just running. So it's also clustered. It's also managed. It's also secured.
Scaled out.
And well, it's done.
Okay.
So this is the Eureka you created and the config server you created.
But it's secure. So the communication from the client and so on is also authenticated.
Yes. We will see. I will do a little thing to secure it. So I'm going to create the app. You call it with the version service. Oh, please tell me if
number 1 or something?
Oh, yeah. That's
reservations 1.
I like it better like that.
Faster.
Because I don't like to have those things on your keyboard. I'll put 2 CPUs so it's faster.
Okay.
And I'm going to create the app. So this could just, at the moment, an empty shell.
Right.
Where you can upload your Wi-Fi. I'm going to take your app now. This is reservation service. And let's have a look at your POM file.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got everything. You've got config, Eureka. Oh, Zipkin. You didn't configure Zipkin. We're going to have Zipkin working here.
I was going to get around to that.
This just takes a few days.
Yeah.
This is good. I just need to install one little jar file. Let me show you. So this is a full training on Azure Spring Cloud. So I wrote it.
Yeah.
There are 12.
So it works.
Yeah, it works. So I know it works because it's mine. I'm going to take this one. So you need to add this. I hope that in the future, maybe we can simplify this But what this
It's kind
does,
of nice that it's explicit, right? So you're adding a thing that's needed for the platform to do its work.
you know what happens. It's only added a few classes just to secure with the SSL endpoints.
Okay.
So, and now I'm going to build your service again. Build it here. Maven, you have Maven installed?
You have to go into the right directory, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
You have some Maven, yeah, perfect. So package. This cable. Oh, sorry.
Minus P, right?
Yeah, minus D. Minus P, it's a profile.
Minus P. So my friend here, he's
I'm French, so I have tons of issues with those cables.
the Azure keyboard is very common in Europe. We're not in Europe.
So I'm building it like you did, but
Yep.
I just added my data jar, and now I'm going to upload it. So I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Okay, fair
Because
enough.
this is a bit long to type.
Right, it is a long thing to do.
So I just going to say
So make that, can you do command plus plus so that everybody can see?
command
Plus.
plus. Oh, that's nice on a keyboard.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
And I'm going to call it so reservation 1 and add my jar file. Jar pass, target. And this is going to fail because I forgot something. I forgot to bind the database.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's do that first. Because you had a database.
I had
It was running-
MongoDB.
You were cheating also with that because
Yeah.
it was already running.
Yeah, I had MongoDB running on my local machine. I don't
Yeah.
have to write that from scratch. Are you crazy?
Yes, but in production, you would also need a real MongoDB in production.
Okay.
Having
I mean,
MongoDB in production
yeah.
without closing data, that's a lot of work.
Okay, okay.
So
Okay.
here, let's go back to your cluster. If I go to your app, I thought I created the app.
Did you not?
Maybe I didn't click on the button. Reservation 1?
Awkward.
Pretty sure I did that. You didn't click the button? Oh, sorry.
Gotta press the button.
Click the button.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there's the last button. I didn't click on the last button. Sorry about that. So it's pretty easy to do as long as you know to click on a button.
Right.
And I'm not very good at that.
And and it would have been, mind you, this would have been a much easier exercise if we weren't literally trying to get this done in the next, few minutes or whatever it is. So most of you won't have the same problem that we're having, which is forgetting the buttons.
I'm only clicking also to connect to MongoDB database. Well, so it's Cosmos DB, so it's a distributed, geographically distributed database. Highly secured Cosmos.
Okay.
It's API compatible with MongoDB.
But also it's compatible with Gremlin, which is a graph database, Cassandra, which is a document database. It looks like it can do all sorts of different
Yes, and it's
tricks
reactive,
there.
so
Yeah.
you like it.
I do like it, yes.
And this all works automatically, so I just need to click to have the correct configuration keys pushed to my application. So now I've got an application, it's got a database, and now I can push my code. So this is going to take, I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes, just
a few minutes,
depending on the network, just pushing the jar.
So you've already deployed the database.
Yeah.
You've already got Eureka running.
Eureka didn't do anything.
You've got the config server running.
Yeah, I just configured the Git repository.
Okay.
Tracing, it's already enabled.
Tracing, okay, so you've already got tracing as well.
There's one thing that you need to do to have tracing.
So tracing is this idea that I want to see the movement of messages from one node to another in the system. And I can support that with Zipkin, which is an implementation of Spring Cloud Sleuth.
And so here we have a system which is compatible with Zipkin. So that's why we just added the Zipkin files, status. And it's going to send its data automatically to Azure, and Azure will do a map of our applications, and you will be able to drill down and to see your issues. You just need to enable this, and I already enabled it before.
Okay.
But that's like
so you cheated a little bit.
Yeah, one button to click. But because this one takes 2 minutes also.
Yeah.
It's running.
Okay, waiting for it to go. So there's a gerbil inside of Azure Cloud somewhere, losing its mind, trying to get this thing started up into production.
Yes.
Is that true?
Right. If we have a look here, it's running. It's getting discovered.
It's in a Schrodinger deployed state, right?
Yes.
It's both up and down.
Started. Well, when it's deploying, I can show just one thing that we did as a keynote and that we will not do here. It's the blue-green deployment.
Yes.
So instead of just deploying like I do, where we can redeploy as we want, you can give it a deployment set.
Yeah.
And there are two, so there's one green and one blue.
Right.
And you just, once it's deployed, there is one which is hidden and one which is in production.
Right.
Then you can ship them.
Right.
And that's very efficient.
And so you can do this on GitHub as well?
You mean to deploy automatically? Yeah,
Right.
so it's a Git, well, it could work with anything because it's just the command lines I've been using. But let me show on my wonderful training. Here I did a GitHub action to do what we are doing automatically. So we are doing the Maven package, like we just did. And we are deploying to Azure Spring Cloud. As you can see, it's basically that's the command I just did.
Right.
And what it does is that as soon as you do git push, it builds, it deploys.
Okay.
So you just do git push and you don't do anything else. It's just working out of the box.
So just as with Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint before it, you've taken GitHub and Azure Cloud, both owned by Microsoft, and integrated them tightly.
And
wonderful. Nicely.
So it's running.
Okay. How do we access the URL?
So there are two ways. There's a test endpoint here, which is secured with a token.
Okay.
I'm going to assign it to public domain, so it's even easier for us to do curl, because otherwise you wouldn't have to type.
So it's not public by default. That's nice.
Yeah, so well, by default it's secure.
Right.
And you can enable it afterwards.
Okay.
Do we curl it?
Yep.
Let's test the message.
Yep.
First thing you did. Oh, it works! I wouldn't believe it.
That's amazing. Okay, that is better. That's much better than doing what I was doing.
Does the database work?
You're pushing your luck.
Chance. The database works. Yes. So awesome.
All right.
I'm just clicking buttons.
Okay. You've convinced me.
The tracing works.
Yeah.
Well, it takes some time for the tracing data to arrive.
Right.
So maybe it doesn't work.
It does take it's that gerbil that I was telling you about before. That gerbil is collecting all that trace information and putting it in this dashboard for you, one by one, with its tiny little gerbil hands. And so,
let's give it some load, because otherwise tracing isn't interesting if you don't have any request.
So this does take more than a second and less than a year to see all the data. It doesn't miss anything, don't get me wrong. It just doesn't display it exactly live.
Yeah. Let's talk about something else, and we'll click.
How about that local sports team? I've got
Do you have a good?
No, let's not do it. Don't talk about sports. Okay, is it there? We have 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's probably stored in MongoDB.
Come on, waiting for this to go. Well, okay. Okay, we're going to assume that gets there. He's going to keep refreshing because I'm assuming it'll get there. It does get there.
Yes,
it just takes a little bit for the first push, right? I have questions. Who learned something new? Good stuff. Right on. Who had fun? Okay, good stuff. Love to hear that. Please, obviously, vote. You know, if there's a thing you can say where you can tell people that you love this talk, that's the thing to do. If there's a thing where you can say you didn't love the talk, then it's not the thing to do. Do something else. There it is.
Yes.
Ah, look at that.
Awesome.
Woo. Good stuff.
And so we can click on it and drill down and have more information of why your application is slow.
Oh, wow. It's not so, hey.
Oh, you get message and the reservation is slower. That's normal. We access a database.
Yeah, sure.
So it's like totally logical. That's good.
Amazing. And that's reactive, actually. It's actually going through, it understands reactive. So because Spring Cloud Sleuth understands that, this understands it as well. That's so cool. Thanks,
that was so easy.
Thanks, my friend. I feel much better.
Thanks a lot.
We're actually in production.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot.